Yeah, okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Costanza, and I will be talking about how Swarm makes Ethereum cyberpunk again. Before I start, some background about me. I'm a core member at the Swarm network, a decentralized storage and communication system. In December 2023, when Vitalik published Make Ethereum Cyberpunk Again, I was at the most cyberpunk event, if you know it, 37C3. And I was there with an amazing group of cyberpunk women. So at 2 a.m., still at the conference venue, me and my girlfriend started reading the blog post. And we didn't bat an eye at the fact that Make Ethereum Cyberpunk Again means that Ethereum is not cyberpunk anymore. Vitalik said what we all knew in our heart. Between a meme coin or an open bar at a side event, crypto lost this cyberpunk ethos. We need to find it again. So today I will explore those three questions. What is cyberpunk? Why is Ethereum losing its cyberpunk ethos? And how can we make Ethereum cyberpunk again? So let me ask you beforehand, how many of you have read the Cyberpunk Manifesto by Eric Hughes? Raise your hands, don't be shy. Cool. And how many of you identify as cyberpunk? That's better. What if I tell you that this is also cyberpunk? That is a picture of me in 1993, right when the Cyberpunk Manifesto got published. This is because I identify as cyberpunk since I was a child. You see, my father was a satirical cartoonist and a political activist. And that means two things. First of all, his phone, our landline, was under surveillance so many times. It was like back in the 90s, early 2000s, so it was very easy to spot. And so just because they were monitoring him, they were also monitoring me. In Italy, privacy is a political matter. It is not a human rights matter. So the debate is on the line of, you need privacy? That's because you're a criminal. That's a criminal. So since I didn't have privacy in my own communication with my own father, I realized early on that privacy has to be by default. Otherwise, it can be taken away. And the second thing I realized is that freedom of speech is very important. This is because, as a satirical cartoonist, it was the subject of censorship so many times. It was threatened. And it was infuriating because how can someone else decide if he can publish a cartoon? Like the most innocent thing ever. Funny story is that whenever they wanted to censor him, they would send the police to every news agent in the country. But by the time that they will get there, the newspapers got sold out. So that was a big win for him. And also, in real life, proof that distributed system works. So where am I getting with that? 6-year-old Costanza was cyberpunk. Children are cyberpunk. This is because they understand basic human rights. And if they can do that, it's because privacy and freedom are so basic that even children can understand them. And it is us, the grown-ups, that forgot about it. And technology should come to protect what should be a human rights. So what is cyberpunk? Privacy is cyberpunk. Censorship resistance is cyberpunk. Users in control of the data is cyberpunk. Breaking from centralized players, we can make and break the rules. A technology for everyone, so that everyone can have digital freedoms, is cyberpunk. Open source and no barriers to entry is cyberpunk. A borderless technology available to everyone is cyberpunk. A technology that is unstoppable is cyberpunk. You can stop me talking. You can stop me coding. So a technology that doesn't rely on the whim of someone is cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, this is what it's supposed to be like. It is not sexy. It is not getting rich fast. Cyberpunk is staying true to our core values. So the initial version of crypto is something that 6-year-old cyberpunk Costanza would have loved: a free and open society. And this free and open society had 3 key values: unstoppable, privacy-preserving, and permissionless. That was the initial premise of Ethereum and of Ethereum's Holy Trinity. Ethereum as the world CPU, Whisper as the communication layer, and Swarm as the storage layer. And that was for a Web3 that valued privacy. In the word of Eric Hughes, defended privacy with cryptography, anonymous mail forwarding system, digital signatures, and electronic money. It's not about the technology. It's about what you can do with the technology to make her happy. So look around today at crypto projects. How many of those projects actually embed those values? Nodes are centralized. Some DeFi projects rely on less than optimal infrastructure. Some projects transfer IP addresses in some countries in order to comply with regulators. Some projects don't implement optimal cryptography. Some projects are closed source. That goes against all the principles of open source, privacy, ownership, censorship resistance that define the cyberpunk ethos. And a world that will make her happy is a place where you have privacy and you have freedom. And indeed, you have secure communication, extreme privacy by default, decentralized, censorship-resistant data, and unstoppable computing. Those were the building blocks for the world to come. Now, 10 years after Ethereum started, we are still not there. But that's OK, because revolutions don't happen overnight. It takes time, missteps, bulls and bears to push through and make the dreams come true. And we have gone a long way since the initial cyberpunk vision of Ethereum. And we are just at the last mile. We are not only anymore just a financial ecosystem. We're in a full-stack replacement for centralized stacks. We're even building things that centralized stack doesn't have. And we need to build our ecosystem with that in mind to make the cyberpunk vision come true. So Vitalik said that today we have the tools we need, and most of the tools we will ever have to build applications that are cyberpunk and user-friendly. And so we should go out and do it. And my childhood dream came true because Swarm is one of those tools. So we should go out and do it. So how can Swarm make Ethereum cyberpunk again? To answer those questions, we'll see a high-level overview of what Swarm is, and we will see how it is the missing piece of crypto, how there is no Web3 without Swarm, there is no cyberpunk without Swarm. What is Swarm? Swarm is a decentralized communication and storage system. There is a few key elements that Swarm used to make Web3 cyberpunk. First of all, vNodes. Swarm is a peer-to-peer network. There is no central node controlling the entire network. So each one of us can run their own nodes. When you join the network, by default, your nodes get assigned an address that is randomly generated. There are 4 types of nodes, depending what you want to build. I would advise to go with, obviously, the full node that allows you to have full participation in the network and to also enjoy the incentives. The second thing is chunks. So in Swarm, when you upload the content from a file to a website, the content is split into chunks, and those chunks are split across the networks. 2 important things to note. Each chunk is addressable on the network via an hash, and each chunk of data is distributed to more than one node in a redundant way by default. Also, when you upload a file, you can also decide to encrypt it. Finally, academia routing. So the nodes communicate with each other using the academia routing. This is how it works. Alice wants to send a message to Dave, but she's not connected to Dave. She doesn't know Dave, so she doesn't know how. But she is connected to Bob. So she asks Bob. Now, Bob doesn't know Dave either, but he knows Carol, so Bob asks Carol. And Carol finally knows Dave. So in this way, Alice communicates to Dave and to everyone else in the network. And by following this connectivity pattern, it ensures that not Dave, not anyone else knows that the request comes from Alice. And also, Alice doesn't know who is storing her data. So in other words, this communication strategy has the benefit of anonymity for both the senders as well as the receivers. And this gives anonymity at the network level and plausible deniability. OK, but how does this make Costanza happy? Or how does this make Swarm the missing piece to make Ethereum cyberpunk again? Thanks to chunks, nodes, and academia routing, nodes don't know what they're storing. And this gives them plausible deniability. So this means that node operators cannot be held accountable for the content that they're storing. So there is no middleman censorship. So what does it mean? You can prevent people from accessing the content. You can't deplatform people. And you have privacy by default. But I'm actually going to one-up my statement. It is not just privacy by default. This communication strategy can implement zero leaks communication, meaning that no one, and I mean no one, can intercept it. So that will make Costanza free to communicate with her friends about her elementary school dramas without anyone listening to her. It also means no deplatforming by default. It is censorship resistant. That means that no central power can decide to silence you, to stop you, to block your applications, or can prevent people in some countries from accessing your applications. So that's it. This is the current missing piece in the Web3 space, and what we need to implement in order to make the Ethereum ecosystem cyberpunk again. Thank you.